Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the 20-minute fashion distraction. I'm Jackie Jenkins. You know what we do every Wednesday night. We talk total fashion. Tonight is no different. And actually, I hope everybody had a wonderful week. And one of the things that we try and say from week to week is that everybody continues to stay safe and well. I'm very excited that there have been a few new people that have been watching the show. So thank you very much. And I just want to encourage you, if you are not following the page Sophisticated Curations, please do that. And please follow us on Instagram at J Curation. So tonight's show is the show all about vintage. And I'm excited to be here with Chevonne Franks Bowers. Hold on. Let me just add her to the screen. Hi, Chevonne.
Hey, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Thank you for joining us on the 20-minute fashion distraction.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Well, as we were kind of chatting before getting started, everybody loves vintage.
Yes.
And I think tonight's show will be a great opportunity to not only talk about vintage, but really kind of how you think about even selecting the vintage that you're doing. So wonderful, wonderful. I see my sister Jocelyn is here and Pamela is here. Hi. So I just want to start off first by asking, because you have a very interesting Instagram name, Chevy's Vintage, which actually was how we connected, because I think I was stalking one. Okay, that was it. Okay. So what is the meaning behind Chevy's Vintage?
It's so funny because, my first name's Chevonne, and growing up in the 70s, a lot of people couldn't say it or whatever. And so high school, people started calling me Chevy for short.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've had that name since I was 13, 14 years old. And when I was choosing an Instagram name, I didn't want to use my first name because it's too long. And I thought, Chevy, everybody knows me by that. Everybody calls me that. So it's Chevy's Vintage. That's where it came from.
I love that. But you also have a knack that you do on Instagram, which I think is really wonderful, are some very classic pictures as well. So I actually thought you were talking about the car. I didn't even make the full connection.
A lot of people do. A lot of people think that too. But yeah, it has to do with, that's a name from my childhood. And so I bring in, which obviously is vintage now. And so I bring that into my whole life, my whole experience is Chevy's Vintage. So I'm taking things from a little girl all the way up to now.
I love it. Wonderful, wonderful. And I see my mom is here. I see Claudia's here, Van's here, Jackie's here, and Jan's, my other sister here. So this is good. This is good. We have some amazing peeps in the house as we're talking vintage. And so when we first met, one of the things that I kind of remembered that I thought was really interesting is not only do you love to wear vintage, but you also love to sell vintage.
Yes.
Can you share kind of how you got into it, where you do it? I thought it was a great story, as many may be thinking about second, third, or fourth careers in terms of things to do around fashion.
Well, I've always been in fashion, ever since I was, my mother was a fashion designer. So, and she was a manager of a department store. So I grew up with fashion from her, designing our clothes and going to her job. So I, ultimately that's where I ended up working out of high school and then out of college. And then I got married and became a stay-at-home mom because I thought it was important for me to be with my kids. But I could still do fashion. I could still sell it. I could still source it. And so that after my youngest son was in high school, I started managing a local high-end boutique. And then I thought, you know what? I kind of want to do this on my own. I want to do my thing. I want to have my own choices. And I started to thrift. Well, I've always been a thrifter, but I started thrifting clothes, and they were full of all this beautiful vintage from the 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up to, at that point, the 80s. And I thought, no one's buying this, but this stuff is amazing. So I started sourcing it. I would just, I have a great thrift store here. I'd get dresses for $1, $2. And my dream was when my husband retired that I wanted to open up my own brick and mortar because he's also a vintage collector, furniture, trinkets, t-shirts, that type of thing. So we were going to open up a store and do the whole thing. Then he retired, and I was like, well, I don't want to work. It's not working. I don't want to work. And it's really hard to have a brick and mortar store. Like, you have to put probably more time into that than you would a
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5. And I found that out from running the stores for the ladies that I worked for. I was there because they needed to have time away. So when he retired, we got the travel bug, and I didn't want to be stationary, stuck to a store, and then having to hire people. So I started selling on Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
We originally were selling on eBay, then Etsy became the big push for vintage. So I had a store there, and
Okay.
then with the last, I think it's been like 2 years, I joined Poshmark. Poshmark is super easy, really quick. You don't have to think about it. Everything's done for you. So I have all this inventory. I mean, I'm talking boxes and boxes of clothes. Half of them I can wear, the other half I can't. And so you do, I started listing them, and lo and behold, people were buying them. And now with this last year with COVID, that's where everybody's shopping is online. So
Mm-hmm.
all of our things were just, I mean, we were at one point, we were just pumping stuff out, sale after sale after sale. So that's pretty much it. It's a great, I wouldn't call it a second. Well, I guess if I were to seriously do it, it could be a total second job, but I don't want to have a second
Okay.
career. I still want, it's my love, so I still want it to be fun. And so
Mm-hmm.
we do it, I do it just in small batches, but enough to pay for vacations and things like that. So
And
it's
no brick and mortar.
and no brick and mortar, which is great because where would we have been last year?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you touched on two things that I want to bring up. One, you touched on not just vintage, but thrifting and being able to get things for $1.
Hmm.
And I do want to just give a quick shout out to Foyer Vintage. So Foyer Vintage is a spot near me in Brooklyn where actually, so my whole outfit was vintage. I was trying to do like this Phyllis Hyman thing with the turban, this and that.
It's cute.
But the big takeaway was that I got this dress. It's like a 70s disco dress with the shoulder pads for $10 out of the vintage bin, which basically was like the thrift bin.
Hmm.
And you're absolutely right. You can find some amazing pieces for
Hmm.
nearly nothing. Can you just talk about some of the best finds that you've had?
YSL blazer, um, Givenchy blazers, Coco Chanel, Louis Vuitton. There's everything you can think of is at the thrift store. You just have to
Hmm.
look. And a lot of times people don't know what they are. So they just put them out for $2, and you pull it out and you're just like, oh my goodness, this is, or like I have a collection of 40 dresses that you just can't find that stuff anymore. Like
Yeah.
maybe some lady passed away or something and she gave all her stuff away. Always designer stuff. Always. Like I have never purchased anything designer regular price. I always find it vintage, and I have a lot. A lot.
So Adrienne says she grew up with vintage and consignment. Courtney loves your her story about how you got into it. And Nicole, the New Yorker, oh my goodness, Nicole is talking about Greenwich Village and
Wow.
finding amazing pieces there. Oh my goodness, Nicole, you're so right. I remember I got this like white Michael Jackson's leather jacket that
Oh
was
my goodness.
it was bad, but nearly nothing down in the village. And Jackie raised the question, and actually, Chevonne, you're being a little humble here because you're actually an amazing seller on Poshmark. I saw the numbers that you're doing.
You well, I like to keep it modest. Keep it. Oh, you know what? I did forget my latest great find, and I've been looking for this forever. I found a full length mink coat, perfect condition, for $10. I about died. I
Wow.
died.
Full
So
length.
it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And people think, well, why would you need a mink coat in Southern California? Because it gets cold at night.
And you just might enough of an answer. Oh, I love it. So talk a little bit about that though. Um, when you are thrift and vintage shopping, what are some tips as far as, I mean, you mentioned one as far as a lot of times people don't know what they're putting out.
Right.
So to definitely look, but what are some other tips as far as how to find finds like a $10 fur?
Um, go thrifting often. Find a favorite thrift store. Go often. Get to know the people that work there. When you know the people that work there, sometimes they'll call you and say, "Hey, we got this in. I know this is you, so come and get it." Um, we're thrifting about once a week. I used to thrift 3 days a week, just to because they rotate. The stuff comes and in
Mm-hmm.
constantly, so we're constantly rotating, and you have to be there when the good stuff is there, or you'll miss out. Look for the old tags. Always look at the tags. If it's well, you already know if it says made in China, that's not vintage. But if it says
Okay.
made in
Say that again. That's a great tip.
if it's made in China, it's not vintage. If it's
Mm-hmm.
made in Hong Kong, it is.
Interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
if it's made in Hong Kong, that's vintage. If it's made in USA, buy anything made in USA because we don't make anything anymore. So
So
that's
by the USA.
automatically vintage. Obviously you can tell from fabrics, and designs that it's vintage, but the union label will be in
Mm-hmm.
there, the old fashioned union labels, any of that is vintage.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
also understand if you're shopping for yourself, vintage sizes aren't our sizes. They're not the modern size. So you may find a vintage size 12 dress. That's not a modern 12. That would be about a 6.
Right. Right.
So, but, if you can try it on.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to shop in the plus size section because they'll still put a size 18, but that's only a
Mm-hmm.
10 in modern size.
Mm-hmm.
So, and make sure you look through all sections, men, women, and children.
Yes. No, that's a great point. And I love the points that you made as far as Hong Kong being vintage. Definitely buy anything in the US.
Mhm.
There, Pamela loves your mud cloth.
Oh, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about that piece?
I got this off of Etsy. Um, just, I shopped, I put ethnic print, African print, and
Mm-hmm.
just scroll until I can find what I want. But most of my African clothes, and I have quite a bit, I've thrifted. It literally is just sitting in a thrift store. And I'll just, I look for patterns, colors, because I can kind of scale and see and it'll pop out. But if you just carefully just take your time, you'll find. I'll give you an example. In 2010, my youngest started college. He went to USC. And
Mm-hmm.
USC is very expensive, extremely expensive. And obviously, he didn't get any financial aid. I mean, he got a little bit, but not enough to pay that bill. So I had to cut back on, one of the ways was to cut back on my spending, not shopping. So I decided that first year that he went to college that I was just going to get anything I needed from the thrift store.
Okay.
So I was able to thrift for every occasion. And my husband was still working then, so we had a lot of events to go to, balls, parties, things like that. And I could find something for every single occasion, from formals to casual, all from a thrift store. And that's when I really knew my shopping was going to change then. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I can go there, find clothes that are already there, I don't have to buy fast fashion. And I'm not saying I don't buy fast fashion. Probably 10% of my wardrobe was fast fashion. But the vintage stuff was just so unique, so beautiful, so well made that
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of shifted to that, and that's where I am. Thrifting is my love. It's like my husband says, "Don't we have the best hobby in the world?" I said, "Yeah, because you can find the most amazing things, and it's just unbelievable, and no one else has it." And it
I
always reminds me of my parents too. I'll go into the store and I'll find something. My parents
yeah.
were complete fashionistas, my mother and my father. And I'll find something that reminds me of them in the 70s or the 80s. And I just have to have it. It's like a trip down memory lane, makes you feel
Yeah.
good. It's like good old R&B music. That's what it is
Yes,
for me.
yeah, going back to the Chevy, yes, yes.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I agree. And actually, my first thrifting shops were actually with my mom in Philly.
Yeah.
My mom and sister in Philly, and you're absolutely right. Those were some priceless times.
Yes.
Really, really wonderful.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's a few questions here. One is, Paula, in Atlanta, locating a great thrift store. I don't. Do you know of any Atlanta? I have an Atlanta one.
I don't. My daughter used to live in Atlanta too. I don't know specifically of a great one. When we were in Atlanta, we just Googled, yelped every thrift store, and we just went to every thrift store that
Okay.
was there. So I don't specifically know like a favorite ones. I just go to whatever's popular, and then I always try to find the little small ones because a lot of times they have hidden gems, and because nobody goes there, they don't really know about it. So so go to a big brand, like a Savers or a Goodwill or Salvation Army or Family
Hmm.
Thrift, and then find one that's like maybe a church run or a hospital run. Those are the best.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
the best.
Yeah, and I see Goodwill listed by Deborah. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna call Courtney out. Courtney, you sent me one in Atlanta, and I'm blanking on the name of it. It's the one where there's four distinct stores all in one location. If you could put that in the chat, I just can't remember the name of it. That would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Claudia, oh my goodness. So Claudia's daughter and I are actually a dear friend of mine, and I've seen some of the amazing fur pieces that she's been able to even refurbish
Mm-hmm.
in her wardrobe. So yes, yes, yes. And can you so now that you've got everybody all excited, where can where can they find you in terms of the items that you're selling on Poshmark, but then also just to how to find you on IG so that they can see some of the looks that you're creating?
The same name, Chevy's Vintage. That's who I am on Poshmark. That's who I am on Etsy, Facebook, and Instagram. I like to keep it simple. So
Okay.
just Chevy's Vintage. If you search that, you'll find me on any of those forums. So I'm on my Etsy store is not open right now because we're revamping it. But I hope to have it open by the end of May. But I'm on Etsy, Poshmark, and Instagram and Facebook.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I love the fact that folks are just dropping in the chat different places to go thrifting kind of around the US.
That's good.
So Seattle from Deborah, we have the Goodwill on Dearborn Street. So my Seattle peeps, definitely check that out.
Oh, I've been to that one. It's a good one.
Okay.
I thrifted all over the United States, just so you know.
Oh, okay. All right. So then we gotta talk more about that. In Atlanta, the little 5 Points area. Oh yeah,
Yes,
you're right,
that
Adrian.
area
Yes, the
is
5 Points area.
amazing. Yes.
Courtney, you're so right. Real Real.
Yes.
Actually, these earrings are from Real Real. That's
Yes.
the online site.
Yes.
Um.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Jackie raised the question on your Poshmark. Are you selling any artwork?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, awesome! What type of artwork are you selling? I didn't even know you were doing homework. So talk about that.
Mid-century art, African art. That's mostly it, and some oils
Okay.
and housewares things.
Awesome. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, and in fact, I didn't even think to do this. My husband is the one that really has all that type of stuff. So if anybody's interested, I can send you his Poshmark.
What's the name of it?
California Thrifting.
California Thrifting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
California Thrifting. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I also see the Goodwill in Alexandria. Haven't been there yet, but I have heard Alexandria does have good ones. And my guest from last week, LaQuinta, is chiming in, which you're absolutely right, the Buffalo Exchange, which I have forgotten about. So,
Yes.
Oh, this is awesome. This is a gem. And then, I didn't know about this one, Tiffany. Fashion Forward in Philadelphia.
Oh.
Didn't know about that.
I wish I would have known that too.
Yeah, I will have to look. Oh my goodness. So before we close out, I could not let you end as we're about to go into another season. Top tips on what to thrift as we're thinking about for summer.
I am looking for I'm always looking for ethnic prints. I'm also looking for like the bright pastels, the bright oranges, sheers. I'm always looking for lace, anything lace
Mm-hmm.
or crochet. I'm big into wide leg pants, and my favorite thing to wear are dresses. Any dress that is summery. So sundresses. I love 80s print rayon dresses for the summer. They're
Okay.
amazing. And seersucker.
Oh,
Yes. I'm on the
haven't heard
hunt
that one in a
for
while.
for I'd love to get a seersucker suit, but I'll just take the shorts if I can find
Oh,
them.
now you're talking my language. Okay. Okay. Well,
And
awesome.
anything with what do you call it? A wide collar. Those are really big. The wide
Mm-hmm.
lace, bold collars. Those are really, really cute. I'm looking for that too.
Well, we're looking forward to living a life beyond Zoom so that we can
Yes.
show off our vintage looks.
Yes.
And well, actually, I know we're exactly at our 20 minutes, but Adrian has raised a question, which I think I saw an answer. Ideas on where to score a DVF wrap.
Actually, everywhere. I've seen people
Oh,
get them from Goodwill and Salvation Army.
okay.
It
Okay.
just depends on where you are. I'm near Los Angeles, so you can find a lot of things closer. Those types of things you find closer to larger cities.
Okay.
But I have had friends find them right on the Goodwill web.
Okay.
And if you're bold and you're really into it, you can try the Goodwill bins.
Yeah.
Those are, you find a lot of good things there
Mm.
because, they're just there. You just have to be able to go through all the stuff. But just continue to look. And what we always say is you manifest it. If you think about it enough, it'll be there.
I I love that. I love that. Well, we are going to close for tonight. I want to thank everybody. This was an awesome show. One thing that I say, Chevonne, is that there's some things that we can't get back, and time is one of them.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for spending your time and your
Thank you.
talents with us.
Thank you.
And for you folks in the audience that keep rocking with me every Wednesday night, I say thank you, thank you. And we will see you next week. And we'll be talking unconventional business and unconventional fashions with a dear friend of mine, Claudia Post. And everybody have a wonderful week. Chevonne, hold on for a minute while we close out. And I'll see you next week. Bye then. Bye, everybody. Have a great one.